warm welcome. Thanks for tuning in to this special episode on News9 Live, where your health matters, your source for everything that's related to healthcare testing. I'm Kabir Naqvi, and today we're delving into a critical aspect of modern medicine that often remains behind the scenes. We're talking about clinical laboratory testing. You've probably heard your healthcare provider say, I just want to run a few tests. And today, we're here to shed light on what goes in on those clinical laboratories. These tests are pivotal as the results guide a majority of healthcare decisions that are going to come up next. Yet, for many, the world of clinical laboratory testing is relatively uncharted. That's why we're here to help you understand the significance of these tests and the trust your provider places in these results. How do these labs instill patient confidence? How will the patient know what healthcare provider to opt for? Why does accreditation matter, and how do labs get them? Personal training needs to be top-notch. There are different legs of testing and analysis of samples. How do quality control work, and can we improve them? The involvement of laboratory in your diagnostics. My goodness, there's so much to talk about. And we've got experts, doctors with us here in the studio, and we'll explore the intricacies of these standards and the processes that laboratories go through to ensure that the tests they conduct are not only accurate, but also clinically acceptable. Joining me here in the studio is an esteemed set of panelists, ladies and gentlemen. We've got Dr. Prashant Nag, VP Diagnostics, Tata 1MG, Dr. Ritesh Gupta, who's the Director for Endocrinology, Diabetology, Fortis CDoc, and Dr. Anurag Agarwal. Very warm welcome to all of you, doctors. To this set of doctors, if there's anybody who wants to ask a question, you can get down in the comment section as well. But in the meantime, reliability of diagnostic labs. Why is it important for us to be talking about this today? I mean, I know that self-monitoring is a huge thing. People wear ECG watches all around. Smart watches is a big thing today. But diagnostics, why is it important that people talk about it? More awareness should be created about it. Who wants to take that up?
So, I'll take the question.
Yeah, sure.
So, after the patient has met the doctor, so after a thorough clinical examination, what leads to the exact diagnosis is totally dependent upon labs and lab results. So, once we say the patient that you have so and so disease, they are directed to undergo certain tests, and the validity, the credibility, and the accuracy and precision of those tests are very important to guide the further treatment, to monitor and to diagnose the patient with what ailment the patient might be having. So, it has got a very, very big bearing on the treatment of the patient and overall clinical outcome once we have diagnosed the patient with a particular disease.
All right. And Dr. Nag, if I were to say that you need to instill more patient confidence, you need to, for example, there's a patient who's out there looking for a laboratory test. What factors does the patient need to consider, or this client need to consider when they're choosing what healthcare provider to go for, what lab to choose? Are there factors that you could probably tell the viewers here?
Yeah, so see, lab test is it's a journey from sample collection to reporting, and there are different steps which require different quality processes. And I totally agree with you what you said in your intro, that it is all behind the scenes, so patient is not aware of what is happening, and there has to be some third party validations on which patient can look to. So, as far as India is concerned, there are two accreditations which are known. One is ISO, one is NABL. NABL is specifically considered as a good accreditation. Then world over, CAP accreditation, which is called as College of American Pathologists, is the highest accreditation for clinical laboratories.
What's it called? CAP accreditation.
CAP is College of American Pathologists, and is one of the highest accreditation possible across the world for in terms of diagnostic laboratories, in terms of standards, reliability, accuracy, precision, whatsoever when we are talking of quality. So, these are the third party validations of your quality processes. We do our best to see that we do best on quality, but third party accreditations are very, very important in building those robust processes, bringing those guidelines, making the labs to adhere to those. They have yearly monitoring along with external quality assurance programs, which make these accreditations very important in terms of reliability and quality parameters. So, yes, if you look for a customer should look for an accredited lab, probably NABL or CAP.
All right, all right. We've got the Director of Endocrinology and Diabetology, Dr. Gupta, with us also. Dr. Gupta, when it comes to diabetes, I mean, it's very much test oriented. What kind of test would you encourage to a patient? What kind of self-testing would you discourage to in a patient? And your opening comments also on the reliability of diagnostic labs, how we should hold the diagnostic labs accountable as well?
Yeah, as in any disease, diabetes also needs validated, accurate tests, because many a decision is made based on those tests. So of course, we check the sugar and we check the what is called HbA1c, which is a kind of a marker for the sugar control over last 3 months. But the reliability of these tests is very important. At the same time, the physician and the patient needs to be aware of the fallacies, the valid fallacies of some of the tests. There are certain tests which have certain limitations, and that's nothing to do with the lab testing or the methodology. It is just that
the
there are
word
certain
test in
limitations.
itself, doctor, I understand. I mean, it is a trial and error. That's why you give your samples to a laboratory in the first place.
So, what I find a trend is these days for the patients and for the lay people, they're not even patients sometimes, they are just lay people, they just get some tests done and they want to interpret those tests. Fortunately or unfortunately, it's not so black and white. It's not that your sugar is this much, so you are a diabetic. Sometimes it's not so simple. So you need to consult a physician or a doctor to know about those results. Patients would test on their own. Patients, as you said, there are now smart watches and everything. Very soon we'll have a smart watch to check sugar also probably. We anyway check, our patients check sugar at home with a reliable machine, and sometimes they check it at the lab also at the same time, and then there is a discrepancy and there is a problem. So one needs to have a realistic expectation also that there is some kind of a 15 to 20% variability which is acceptable till now, at least till the latest standards. It is acceptable between the home machine, home reader and the lab. So all these factors make it imperative for the patient to consult a doctor basically, not try to interpret the test on their own. They may unnecessarily get alarmed, or they may unnecessarily relax and feel that they are doing well, though they
there are ranges on the blood test reports as well, and people try to understand where do they stand in that range, so borderline seems good to too many people. I'll tell you what.
Exactly.
So I'll definitely, I second the point of Dr. Ranjit. So what is most important is that there is a whole science behind it. A single number does not tell everything about your body. So that science interpretation requires a clinician behind it. And on lab reports, those lab reports although fall in a particular range, but they have to be interpreted. Suppose there are two values which are to be interpreted together. You cannot just look at one value. So interpreting sugar along with your lipid profile, along with your other markers. So there are so many things which have to be looked into, and that is very key important point, that yes, you have crossed the one phase of being aware about your health, that you have got your test checkup done. But the second point, that going to the doctor, talking about those tests, taking right interventions is also equally important.
Feedback, it seems, is equally important. You know, Dr. Agarwal, you yourself being an emergency medicine specialist, it seems like from what I've understood in this little conversation that we've had, is that there are two legs, two sides to this diagnosis. You have the doctor, and then you have the laboratory that's conducting those tests. You as a doctor, what do you expect from a laboratory?
What we expect from the laboratory is to give correct results in determined time, so as to diagnose the patient and treat the patient accordingly. Secondly, tests should not be taken at face value. They have to be interpreted in the clinical context as to what the patient has come with, because in the end we are not treating the report, we are treating the patient.
That's very well put. You're not actually treating the report, which I think many people start doing when they receive reports back at home.
Yes, so the reports have to be interpreted only in clinical context after consulting a qualified doctor. So these two legs, as you said, for a patient, both of them are important and both of them are dependent on each other. So both these legs have to be very robust. The doctor has to be qualified, he has to be efficient, and he has to be very confident in his diagnosis, and the labs, they should be robust, they should be accurate in their diagnosis, in their reporting, and they should most importantly have their own standards and protocols which are in line with the accreditation bodies like NABL and SCAP, as Dr. Saab has already pointed out. So both these things, when combined together, can lead to a better quality of treatment that can be
A
given to the
utopian
patient.
treatment that is somewhere out there.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't know on that. But not to digress, from it, the adjectives that Dr. Agarwal here has used: robust, timely bound, accurate results. How do you check all of this? How do you put this to the test in a lab? I mean, of course, you spoke about both these, the CAP accreditation and the NABL. But in terms of healthcare personnel inside the laboratory being top notch, their training being up to the mark, accuracy, repeatability of your tests, how is all of that maintained and checked, Dr. Nag?
So, one thing we have to understand that for this whole thing, there has to be a system. It cannot be person dependent. So, all the good labs, all the accredited labs follow their quality management system. So, their QMS covers competent personnel, right amount of personnel, right amount of machine, correct methodology, the quality controls of the machines, of the specific reagents, then comparing them with the external quality assurance programs. So, there are a whole QMS quality management system is there, which has a leg of quality assurance, quality control and quality assessment. So, if I divide these broadly, when I say a quality assurance, it assures that all the procedures, policies, personnel, machine, all are in place and as per the quality standards to deliver the quality results in the determined time. So, it is reliable, accurate and consistent. Parallelly, we go for a quality assessment by an external labs, which helps us in determining our values compared to the peer. So, there are a lot of statistics which is being followed out there to see that how you are going in terms of your quality. And these are the things which are done day in and day out, every process as a system, and those things are followed diligently. Same are being judged during time of accreditation, whether they are being followed, and those metrics are being looked into. So, that is how quality works. So, it is practically a system with all the checks in place, preventing a bigger error. See, failures are bound to come. Every process has its own failure. No human can be perfect, no machine can be perfect. But our system has to be that perfect that it can nip the error at the right time, and a wrong report is prevented from being released. So, process has to be fully quality assured at the level of collection, from collection to transport to lab, within the lab, and then the report outflow to the patient. All the three legs have to be very, very quality efficient and run by a quality management system.
But it seems like, from how you're trying to interpret things, there's going to be a lot of competition in the market as well. Could you put a number of how many labs exist in India today?
So, there are different numbers around it, but the most conservative number is 1 lakh plus. Although by my experience, I feel it is somewhere around, it must be somewhere around 10 lakhs, but even if I take that 1 lakh number, the NABL site shows some 2,300 plus labs having the accreditation. So, that is hardly 2% labs are having accredited of accreditation of NABL.
That's a worrisome figure.
Yeah.
Dr. Gupta, how worried are you about the fact, and how does that imply in your day-to-day diagnosis of other treatment? I mean, you're a doctor in a doctor's community. You'd want all these labs to be, the best of, to be working at the best of their abilities.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because that, as I said, I have to make decisions. I have to make decisions about the treatment. I have to make decisions about sugar, cholesterol, so many other things. And so many things are interlinked. So I want a lab which is accredited and which is giving me a reliable result. As Dr. Nag has pointed out, they need to have their processes. So yeah, this is worrisome. This is something which needs to be looked into.
In terms of word of mouth, would you tell your patient as well if you would find them, not being able to find the right kind of lab for themselves? What do you think is the right, do we have the right kind of public awareness out there when it comes to choosing, selecting the right kind of lab for your tests?
Well, maybe in tier 1 cities like Delhi and all, it's the awareness is more, but in smaller towns the awareness is much less. In fact, the availability of the accredited labs is also much
always
less.
Room for improvement. How do you think this picture can change? I mean, an open-ended question to all three of you.
So, that can happen with open communication with the patient. It relies mainly on the doctor to educate the patient as well, to look for certain parameters in a lab while going toward a lab for a particular test. Like everybody knows in the doctor community that NABL is one accreditation, which ensures that the lab results are going to be of quality, they are going to be precise, and they are going to be accurate. So at least one thing that doctors can tell the patient is choose a lab while going for a test which is accredited, either by any good quality accreditation body. In India, it's NABL. Secondly, by word of mouth again, certain labs are known. Yes, they give good results. They have precise results. So by word of mouth also helps in patients choosing a particular lab. We can in this era of technology, there are a lot of online reviews about this lab is fair, this lab is unfair, this lab results are accurate, this lab results are not accurate. So online data and online information can also give you it can act as a source of information in choosing a particular lab.
But the internet at the same time can be a real tricky place. Let me tell you that as well. But you know, it's great that you've brought the internet into this, because I feel like we use the word smart with cities, with bridges, with cars. Why not use it with labs as well? I mean, we do need smart labs. I think that should be the next step forward.
Yeah. So just to give you an understanding about it, so there is some level of smartness which has come very well inside the lab. So right now, a good accurate lab will follow a complete procedure where your sample is barcoded at the time of collection only. Machine will read that barcode, will do the tests which are already fixed to a barcode, so there will be no wrong test, no mismatch of machines, nothing. It will always move by that barcode and bidirectionally interfaced. Everything is bidirectionally interfaced. Same will be go to your authentication level, and same will be reviewed by the scientific officers and then by doctors. After these 3 levels of checks, it will flow to the patient. So that level of smartness technology has given a lot to the laboratories, but yes, big journey to go, and there are things happening.
What's the next big thing that's coming up in terms of smart labs?
So there are 2 levels of movements which are happening. One is,
because I'll tell you what, people outside just see a dialysis machine that's roaming around like that, and the blood samples in little vials. That's the picture of a laboratory in the lay people out there, like Dr. Gupta put it in the beginning. What's the next big thing? Is there something that's coming up?
So already there are things, both in terms of technology. There are machines which are coming, which works on very high throughput, and they work on a very small amount of serum sample. So single tube can do multiple testing, and the result that is very fast. Parallelly, point of care testing is also growing very fast, where you are getting machines which can test the blood then and there. But point of care testing has its own issues, and they have to be done in doctor's guidance only, that what POCT should be done, and when it is an emergency care, I think Dr. Agarwal can put more light, where you require more POCTs for some quick judgments. But on smart labs, there are labs which are working on with a high throughput machines and doing more tests with less of samples, and directly interfacing, comparing your last results and present results, giving you a comparative which can help you, and they also alarm you on your critical report so that you can consult your clinician in a faster manner. So these are the things which are being followed in a good smart labs.
You know, I also feel that with the advent of the pandemic, and of course those have been some traumatic experiences for one and all, and we all faced it together. I mean, it was resilience of humanity that was put in the face of that pandemic, and all holds barred, humanity did win. I think laboratories have now come out of laboratories as well, because people come at home to collect your samples. There is, I see people with big backpacks, and they have pretty much everything inside. It's like a little Pandora's box. You don't know what the guy is going to pull out of that box. How is that efficacy maintained, Doctor? Dr. Gupta, would you like to answer that? I mean, the personnel is coming at home, which essentially means there's some real tough training that must be going behind the scenes.
See, the coming to home is mainly for sample collection. So that part is relatively technologically speaking, it's not very high training intensive part or anything. So this is something which is done in the hospitals, but so the same thing can be done at home at a patient's place. The main challenge is transport, because that is something. If there is a delay in transport, if the temperature is not maintained in transport, things like that can affect the test results. And some results can get affected more than others, like hormones, like many hormones which require a particular temperature, and so that is the main challenge, transport.
So logistics comes into play over here. So in terms of reliability of a diagnostics lab, you have logistics that plays a huge part as well, isn't it?
Yes. See, when the sample is getting transported, it's not that the time has frozen for the sample. The sample keeps on changing with every second that passes. So as soon as we are able to process the sample, the more reliable, more accurate result we are going to get. So the time from collection till processing of the sample is very crucial, and the longer the time you have, the less reliable the results are going to be. As doctors have already pointed out, Dr. Gupta, that there are certain hormones which they have to be processed very quickly, because their levels in the blood, they degrade very quickly as well. So as soon as you are able to process the sample, we are going to get a better and more reliable report.
So would you like to, Dr. Nag, can you paint a better picture in terms of where does India stand in terms of logistics in our standard of laboratories today?
Yeah, this is a very, very important topic which we have picked, because taking healthcare to next level, it is very, very important that we go near to the patient, near to the customer, but without compromising quality. So what is most important is, like there is a particular temperature which has to be maintained so that metabolism don't go ahead. That hormone is at that level only at what it was collected. So temperature and time are the crucial, and they are as per the assay required, what test has to be done, and the timing. So good quality system will ensure that a sample is collected and stored at that temperature. It is transported in temperature controlled environment, what Pandora boxes you are talking about. Right. So those Pandora boxes have temperature control, and good temperature boxes have their thermometers inside. So whenever lab is receiving, lab has a record of temperature. So lab reject or accept sample depending on whether the logistic chain has maintained all the relevant quality criteria or not. So those are the very, very important quality management system component which are to be followed whenever we are doing home collections.
And I'm sure that all these accreditations that we're talking about, the NABL, the CAP, they must take into account the logistical factor as well.
They take the whole journey, pre-analytical, analytical and post-analytical. We divide in three parts.
Let me ask you about the journey that the lab has to go through as well to get themselves accredited.
So see, it's a process. It's something which is probably judged cross-sectionally over, say, once a year, twice a year, but it is a process where a lab has to see that there are standards, there are late standards. Good part of these accreditation bodies are they follow a document which entails everything related to quality and integrity of the process. And if you understand that, you have the right personnel, right machine, right systems in the place, you will get through it. So lab prepares accordingly. There are trainings which one has to go through. Those are mandatory trainings, and mandatory qualifications are required for all personnel if they are doing a particular job. Say if it is a pathology test, a pathologist has to be there, a microbiologist has to be there, proper training of molecular biologists. So all types of trainings are to be there. So a good personnel, a machine which can be which is calibrated as per the international standards. Those calibrations are traced back. You should have a traceability certificate for all the things which you are performing. So that is how accreditation works. It just see to it that your all processes are traceable and accountable. It is not that if I say I am quality, that doesn't mean. I have to show it in my system, I have to show in my matrix that things are running by quality. Daily QC checks are there. Just to give a number, every quality lab has somewhere around 30 to 50 quality checks across the process when the sample is collected to a sample is reported. So that is how a quality system works.
All right. And Dr. Gupta, we were talking about how there are only 2,300, 0.2%
hardly
of labs
2%
that
and
are
cap to less than 0.1%.
And cap is the one that is actually needed.
It is the highest. I'll not say needed at least, but enable is the minimum one we should think of as India. Good part is that right now awareness is there. Government during the time of COVID also made it mandatory. Only enable labs can do the COVID. So labs went for enable, and then things are moving on the quality side. But we are a big country with lot of rural urban population, so journey is
I think
there.
Big is an understatement, and I'm sure Dr. Gupta will subscribe to that fact as well. Dr. Gupta, how do we put the next foot forward? How do we improve our QCs inside these labs? Variations, how can they be minimized? These false negatives and false positives that people keep talking about, how can that be bettered? And public awareness, what do you think we can do on that front?
I think as has been pointed out, that if you have standard operating procedures, you have checks, you have of course, if you are in the process for accreditation, you would anyway be following all the checks. If you want your lab to be accredited, you will have to follow certain procedures, and this is what is going to ensure quality. This is all we can expect. In terms of awareness, yes, the public needs to be aware. There needs to be. I think that's why we are doing this program also.
Absolutely.
This concept of quality control and accreditation should go to the public as well. They should know that this particular facility or lab is accredited. So
basically, all the viewers out there that are watching this particular episode, be on the lookout for the proper accreditation on the lab that you're getting your tests done from. But at the same time, how much testing is required? I encounter a lot of people who go through tests every other day. Sometimes their family members are cribbing about them taking through to so many tests. On the contrary, there are people who don't take any kind of tests. Is there, a benchmark that one can follow?
Yeah, the people who are actually suffering from disease or having a history that they might be predisposed to suffering from disease, they are definitely encouraged to undergo periodic testing. But because in our modern day society, in tier 1 cities, and even people and families who are having above middle class, who are having access to money and logistics as well to undergo tests repeatedly, because of a lot of awareness and frenzy, that because of sort of a fear psychosis that sometimes even the media is spreading. If you're having this symptom, it might be having this disease. That fear psychosis and frenzy automatically translates into a lot of irrelevant and unnecessary testing.
A lot of placebo also at play.
Exactly. For those people who are having access to healthcare services.
Why I'm asking you this is because recently, the Union Health Minister, he's come out, he's citing an ICMR report, he's saying that COVID and heart attacks, cardiac arrest might be related. So those who had a severe bout, stay away from the gym or overexerting yourself. What's your opinion on that front, sir?
As you said, as a humanity we have faced first time, but it has impacted multiple organs in a different manner. So science is still evolving, still correlating, but yes, there have been some definite correlations which have come with along with cardiac health, which COVID can do a long-term damage. Although COVID has gone, but during that disease process, there has been some pathological changes happening in your body, which are leading to your poor cardiac health. So yes, there are things which we have to take care, and if I pick it up, probably at that places a preventive checkup once a year may help you out there, that you should know what your body is. But I'll also put one very clear sentence, that it should not be just getting a test will not make you healthy. Getting a test, going to a doctor,
feedback after that.
Getting what is right for your body. If there are interventions, whether it is exercise, whether it is diet, whether it is drugs, those to be implemented, that will make you healthy. So it is a cycle which has to be start with a test. By a test you come to know actionables, and then you action on those. If you don't action on those, you will just keep on testing. That will not take you anywhere.
Every day in the middle of the pandemic, Dr. Gupta, we beg your pardon, we also had to keep account of how many testings were being done, how many tests were being conducted with each passing day. During the COVID time, not in terms of choosing from one healthcare provider to another, but the nation's healthcare together. How reliable do you think was our laboratory system during the COVID pandemic? Many people have written articles about the robustness of it, and many people from outside in the Western media has they've come out with some real good words to speak about India's healthcare when it came to testing during the COVID time.
I think we did a great job in terms of testing. There was barring a few days when probably when the labs were overworked and you had to take an appointment. If
were they overworked? But kudos to them.
But otherwise, overall in COVID times, we were able to, our labs were able to give reliable reports. One point about what you were telling about the tests, the how many tests one should do. So it's not like
benchmark.
So I feel if you have a problem, please visit your physician. Let the physician prescribe the necessary tests and then get it done. There is no point getting a package done and then trying to interpret it on your own, getting some unnecessary tests done which have really no meaning, which don't really, things are not as simple that you have raised a particular value and that increases your risk of heart disease. It's not that simple. So please visit the physician. As far as preventive check is concerned, yes, that is important, but what in that? What all tests to be done in that? And so there's something called a pre-test counseling. In HIV, we used to use that, pre-test counseling. So the patient needs to be aware, if we are doing this test, is it going to change anything? Is the result of the test going to change anything? Is it going to change my lifestyle?
I think these are real ethics of administering a test in the first place. You tell the patient what's going to happen to them.
Because otherwise, I see patients with piled up tests for last 10 years. They have been checking every year, doing nothing about it. Earlier the sugar was slightly high, then even higher, and then finally they become diabetic. So what's the point?
But it was borderline all throughout, no, doctor? So that's fine.
So they never did anything about it. So I think you need to, as he said, actionables have to be there, and one needs to act on those reports.
All right. So just to summarize this little conversation that we've had, it seems like the reliability is out there. You just have to look at the right place. And in terms of where to look and what to look out for, it seems like NABL and CAP, these are two words that you can look out for. What a patient should also look at is factors like how the personnel is working inside the lab, and all those other factors that are probably mentioned in the NABL and the CAP guidelines and the books. And I'm sure each healthcare provider must also very proudly mention it also on their notepad that we are accredited by NABL or we're accredited by CAP. I'm going to give you the last word, Dr. Nag. The way forward, what is your lookout towards the future? How can we better our QCs? How can we better the standard of testing and quote-unquote reliability?
So see, improvement is a continual process. Whatsoever we are doing, improvement is a continual process. So we have to think about the quality. We have to be very clear that we want to implement quality, and a quality which can be concurred by a third party. They should be very clear that it should not be a person or a single or a team dependent. It should be completely a system dependent thing, where every person, every machine is doing their part and we are going ahead. And in the present world, diagnostics is evolving like very fast. The way genetics is coming, the way everything is coming, there all the more quality becomes all the more important, because what you have processed is the process on the micro level. So quality will become more paramount the way diagnostics is moving. So yes, everyone should be very much aware, and not just the doctor side. Doctors are aware what is quality, but patients should be aware of that. They should look for quality whenever they are talking of. And yes, reliability, which comes from say accreditations, or from your doctors can tell that these labs are good. So there are ways you can come to know about the quality. So that is important.
You know, my personal experience is that I've never encountered a rude or a cruel doctor. And we've all heard it that an apple a day keeps the doctor away. But when it finally comes to that bridge where you have to go visit a doctor, I've never encountered a cruel or a rude one. And I've learned it from you guys that you don't lead with panic when we're talking about anything that's related to healthcare. But there is a red flag here. We need more accreditation. We need more labs that have the NABL and the CAP stamp on them, and that's the only red flag that's come out of here. For everybody else that are trying to get their test done, look for the right kind of indicators that we've spoken about here. Doctors, it has been a riveting conversation. Dr. Agarwal, Dr. Nag, and Dr. Gupta, many thanks for joining us here on this episode. All in all, it seems like we are reliable. We just need the right kind of accreditation for it. That's all the time we have for you in this special episode where your health matters. Lots more coming right on the other side. Don't go anywhere.